Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nana Shastra Vicharnika Nipanau Sadkarma Sanstapakau Lokanam Hitkarinau Tribhuvane Manau Sharanya Karau Radha Krishna Padarvinda Bhajnanandena Mattalikau Vande Rupa Sanatanau Raghuyugau Sri Jiva Gopalakau. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizing and studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mode of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Radha and Krishna. So let us summarize what we have heard till now, a short synopsis, because what we are going to be covering today is ecstatic love. So whatever they are representing, we are going to be starting that particular chapter. So today and maybe first part of next week. So two important shlokas. Anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukullena Krishna anushilanam bhaktiruttama sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. So what is important in our devotional service is that it has to be devoid of any other desire. It has to be favorable to Krishna. It has to be cultivated by following the orders and the footsteps of the parampara. And it should not be covered by any kind of karma and jnana. It has to be free from all material designations. We have to take Krishna as the highest object. It is actual service, sevanam, which we saw yesterday as well. And it has to be nirmalam, faultless. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavata Shravana Mathura Vashi Murtera Shraddhaya Sevana. So these are the five most potent items of bhakti. That is serving the deity with great devotion, recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam among devotees, associating with advanced devotees, chanting the holy name of the Lord, and living in Mathura. The three categories of devotional service, sadhana, bhava, and the prema bhakti. So it all depends on how much affection we have for Sri Supreme Personality of Godhead. So initially we don't realize, then we start realizing, and in prema bhakti, we have the highest and the most deepest affection for the Lord. Eligibility is that we have to get the mercy of devotee. We should not be overly attached to anything, but we should also be not overly detached. So how to do the bhakti? 64 items of sadhana bhakti, 20 items of importance, 10 pravritti and 10 nivritti karma, 44 additional items, of which 5 are the most potent items which we recited earlier. 10 pravritti karma, taking shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Guru, receiving initiation and spiritual instructions, serving Sri Guru with love, following the path of the sadhus, questions about the procedures of bhajan, renunciation of all material enjoyment for the sake of Krishna, to live in a sacred place and to hear the greatness of such places, accepting only what is required for the sustenance of bhakti, observing Bhava on Ekadashi, and offering respect to Ashwatha, Tulsi, Amlaki tree, the cows, the Brahmanas, and the Vaishnavas. What is to be avoided is giving up the association of non-devotees, giving up the desire to make more disciples, giving up too many undertakings, renouncing study of many scriptures with the intention to make novel explanations, giving up miserly behavior, giving up anger, lamentation, etc., giving up blasphemy and disrespect of other devatas, giving up harassment of other living entities, giving up all offenses in regard to seva and nama, and one should not tolerate blasphemy of Sri Guru, Sri Krishna, or other devotees. Then we understood the spontaneous bhakti, that is the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, which is an advanced practice intended to cultivate the service mood of eternally perfect resident of Vrindavan. Eligibility was that there has to be a strong desire, and we can obtain this desire by hearing how the eternal residents of Vrindavan spontaneously serve Krishna in various modes. So, three practices, that is remembrance, remembrance through internal and external service, and performing activities of sadhana. So regarding the remembrance, this shloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita is important. The devotee should always think of Krishna within himself and should choose a very dear devotee who is a servitor of Krishna in Vrindavan. One should constantly engage in topics that servitor and his loving relationship with Krishna, and one should live in Vrindavan. If one is physically unable to go to Vrindavan, he should mentally live there. So basically, we have to remember Krishna with the devotees. So all sadhakas who are practicing remembering Krishna, but the spontaneous sadhana practices remembering Krishna with his devotees. So that is the difference. So we just don't remember Krishna, we have to try to remember Krishna with the devotees. The specific devotee one remembers will depend on what is our relationship we are aspiring for. As far as Vrindavan is concerned, how can we remember Krishna with the devotees? Only when we have taken shelter of Vrindavan. So either by living there physically or mentally. But mental residence is more important because all times we have to think about Vrindavana Dhama. That is very important. So remembering through service. So there's one more shloka which we saw yesterday about it. The advanced devotee who is inclined to spontaneous loving service should follow the activities of a particular associate of Krishna in Vrindavan. He should execute service externally as a regulative devotee as well as internally from his self-realized position. Thus, he should perform devotional service both externally and internally. So, since the eternal residents of Vrindavan have two manifestations, there are two ways to meditate upon. One is externally, that is physically, we follow the activities of the sadhvak form, how they chanted, ate, slept, preached, etc. So we saw yesterday that we'll try to imitate them. Or internally, we follow the activities of their siddha form. Siddha form is the form which they have in the Golok Vrindavan, and because of which there is a misrepresentation called as Siddha Pranali. So performing the regulative practices. So basically, it is important that we do not reject the 64 practices of Vaidhi Bhakti. We continue to practice them, and we practice more or focus more on those activities of those 64 which are conducive to a specific mode. So we saw the example that we do not abandon hearing and chanting. Shravanam Kirtanam is not stopped. But what we do is we shravan more about that particular devotee and his association with Krishna, in whose what I say mood we want to serve Krishna. And we also speak more about it. So that is the importance. And learned acharyas have recommended that we follow the regulative principle even after development of spontaneous love, because if we don't do it, then there is a great danger that will fall down. According to regulative principles or the 9 departmental activities, one should specifically engage in a type of devotional service for which we have a natural aptitude. So we saw the example of someone who wants to serve the deities more. Then we understood about the Kamanuga. There is a devotional service following in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis, that is the gopis in the Vrindavan, or the queens of Dwarka. So it could be Sabbhoga Ichamai or Tadvat Bhava Ichatmika. Eligibility, we have to have intense desire, and to nourish that intensely pure desire, what is required is the worship of Radha Krishna deities and hearing the Lord's pastimes. Are males eligible? Yes, because the example is given of sages of Dandakaranya who were captivated by the beautiful form of Sri Lord Rama, and they wanted to embrace him, and then they took birth in the Vrindavan as gopis. So males are also eligible. Two types of conjugal love will be Parakya, where is unwed love, that is which is perfected in the gopis in Vrindavan, or the Swakya, wedded love, which is perfected in the queens of the Dwaraka. Then we also understood about the Sambandhanuga, that is one who aspires to attend the service in the mode of parent, friend, or a servant, that is Sambandha Rupa. So there are two types of aspirations, either of direct parenthood or friendship with Krishna, or it could be for service and appreciation of Krishna's parents and friends. So someone who is already working in this particular association. Direct parental relationship is discouraged because there is a danger that if we try to do it, we may inadvertently develop the desire to become Nanda Maharaj himself, which is Mayavadi. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsham Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we are starting chapter 17, which is about ecstatic love. So we'll try to cover definition and attainment of the Bhava Bhakti, and also if time permits, we'll see a few characteristics of Bhava Bhakti. So let us continue our discussions. So Bhava Bhakti or ecstatic love, the definition is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, 23rd chapter, 5th shloka. śuddha-sattva-viśeṣātmā prema-sūryāṁśu-sāmya-bhāk rucibhiś citta-masṛṇya asau bhava ucyate. So śuddha-sattva-viśeṣātmā prema-sūryāṁśu-sāmya-bhāk rucibhiś citta-masṛṇya asau bhava ucyate. When devotional service is executed on transcendental platform of pure goodness, śuddha-sattva-viśeṣātmā, it is like a sun ray of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to soften rucibhiś citta-masṛṇya by various tests, asau, and one is then situated in bhava, emotion. Bhava ucyate. So what it means is that the primary characteristics of Bhava Bhakti is it has to be one's own devotional potency, which is of Krishna, which begins to descend into the devotee's heart. And secondary characteristics is the heart becomes soft and heart begins to manifest various tests or spiritual desires. So Prabhuji, does it mean that the heart is very hard or has it become stone? Yes. The various philosophers who have discussed this further have said that because of material expectations, material desires, it has been laid down and become so full that it has become hard, and there's no way that bhakti can penetrate in it. And so there's no chance of bhava or the pure prema coming out of it. So though the bhakti has been lying dormant in the heart, which is covered up, it becomes impossible for it to come out. But then we are lucky because Krishna is very, very merciful. So what does Krishna do? His devotional potency descends into the heart. Just think, the moment you start doing some practice, some bhakti, Krishna's devotional potency will descend. And as a result, the heart will become soft, and then the various states or spiritual desires will manifest. Śuddha-sattva-viśeṣātmā, prema-sūryāṁśu-sāmya-bhāk, rucibhiś, citta-masṛṇya, asau, bhāva, ucyate. So we have to ensure that we start something. Because the moment we start something, Krishna's own mercy will come and help us further. So, what are those primary characteristics that we are talking about in this shloka? So, bhava is the stage wherein Krishna will send his mercy into the heart of the devotee. And then the dormant love will be reawakened. This mercy is called as śuddha-sattva, or the transcendental goodness. So this is something which comes from above. So the moment śuddha-sattva comes into our heart, it gives energy to the prema seed. So the dormant seed which is available, that is the dormant seed of prema, it will get the energy and then it will sprout. So this śuddha-sattva coming is very important, and it is the beginning of the prema. It is the very beginning, not only beginning, it is the very beginning. So it is compared here with that of a dawn. So bhava is the dawn of prema. So just like dawn is the first sign of day, similarly bhava is the beginning of prema, and that is why in this shloka it was compared to the sunlight. So we have to look at it from that angle. Somehow or the other, we have to become so strong, sincere in our devotional service that Krishna's mercy will come upon us. And then the secondary characteristics. So what are those secondary characteristics? It is softening of the heart. And how does it happen? The Bhava Bhakti's heart is extremely sensitive to stimulus pertaining to Krishna. So anything in relation to Krishna will stir up. Deep, powerful emotions will come out. So we will find that certain devotees are shivering, crying, their heads are standing. So this is only after the heart has been softened up. And then comes the second characteristics, that is various tests or spiritual desires. So at Bhava, we begin to develop strong spiritual desires. So all our anarthas have gone, that we saw in last week. Only after anartha nivrutti has gone, we are getting the bhava. So that is how it happens. And this is a result of sadhana. So sadhana is very, very important. Within the stage of regulative principles, there are two divisions, which is executive and effective. So the effective portion is called as bhava or ecstasy, but it comes only after the executive portion is done. So you'll find that we have a lot of when the devotees join in and they want to become sincere, they show even small inclination, we request them to join the sadhana groups, different sadhana groups. And then we have these sadhana charts which we maintain. So the devotee Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I really apologize for this small break because of internet connectivity issues. Yeah. So we're talking about the sadhana charts. So the devotee is supposed to fill up this chart, and then he tries to understand over a period of time at the end of the month what all activities which he was supposed to do at level 1 and how much he has finished. So it brings about better, I will say, sincerity, and we try to become more sincere, and we want to aspire to go to the next. So these sadhana charts are very important. And only when we have done this executive part, that becomes successful. So sadhana is executive and bhava is the effect. That is what this particular discussion is all about. So Sri Rupa Goswami ji mentions here, as can be seen, that sadhana is actual involvement of the execution of devotional practice. So it is executive, while bhava is the effect of that practice, and so it is effective. Now, in the tantras regarding this, there is a statement that ecstasy is the first symptom of pure love for the personality of Godhead. And in that stage, one is sometimes found Hare Ram, Ram Ram. I'm really sorry. I think there is an issue with the connection going off again and again. Yeah. So sadhana bhakti is accordingly very, very important. And the tantras have clearly mentioned it, that this is how it happens. But it's not that these symptoms happen always. They can be occasional. For example, we have already seen in the Srimad Bhagavatam the story of Ambrish Maharaj. So when Durvasa Muni cursed him, he began to think of lotus feet of the Lord. And then all of a sudden, tears started falling from his eyes. So it happened all of a sudden, automatically. But it's not that it should happen always. So these are sometimes the result of the activities of ecstasy. So we have to be very careful when we see any such result, because at times what happens is some people try to imitate them as well. So that is also something which is happening. So we have to be careful, because only after these symptoms have come in, what happens is the devotees start to have them in the mind continuously. And then this continuous bhava leads to the stage called as the samadhi. So samadhi is something wherein you are in that bhava continuously. Oh, beautiful Krishna, I'm serving you. I'm serving you, Krishna. Oh, I'm cleaning your feet. I'm cleaning your feet. I'm cleaning your feet. And we think only about Krishna's lotus feet. And then we'll find that thinking, we have reached, we forget everything around. And we just see ourselves with Krishna, ourselves cleaning the feet of Krishna. So this is how bhava leads to the stage of samadhi. And the example is that of that particular devotee. If you remember, one who danced the whole night. Whole night she was dancing, because she wanted that bhakti. But then this stage comes after we have got the appreciation. So we have to be very, very careful. So how do we achieve the bhava bhakti? So one is definitely by ardent practice, and second is by the mercy of Krishna or his devotees. So regarding practice, it has two subdivisions, as we see here. So one which is attained through Vaidhi sadhana. So like Narad Muni and Kapil Dev also mentioned about it. Or the other could be which is attained through Raganuga sadhana. So regarding this, we have the example of the devotee who danced all night. And when it comes to mercy of Krishna or devotees, Srila Prabhupada has compared this to as if someone who is trying to get the graduation certificate as an honorary degree without actually studying or doing hard. So this is extremely rare. to achieve by mercy. Therefore, we should not be complacent and we should ardently practice the sadhana to attract Krishna's bhakti. This is very, very important. Sincerity in the practice of sadhana. Now, when I was talking about this story, she wanted to raise herself to the ecstatic platform. So she danced all night to invoke Lord's mercy. Continuous dance. So various acharyas have explained that she wanted to serve Krishna in the mood of a gopi. So it is Kamanuga. But the fact that she danced all night signified that she did not want to waste any moment. And this is a symptom of Bhava, as we'll be seeing in the further discussion today. And because of this, she achieved Bhava through the Raganuga sadhana. So we have to remember that we have to devotedly execute the regulative principles of devotional service. And at the same time, hope for Krishna's favor or for his devotees' favor. We don't know whether we'll get the favor or not get the favor. But yes, what is in our hand is that we do the bhakti. So we should try continuously and consistently to do the seva, to do all the sadhanas without any break or without any mistake. See, we are not lucky like Maharaj Parikshit, who came to know that exactly after 7 days, he is going to die. So he is also an example of Bhava Bhakti, as we'll see in the subsequent discussions. But then as soon as he came to know, he gave up everything. And he perfected his life by Shravanam, by listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. But we don't have that opportunity because we don't know when the death, the Kala, is going to give its final attack. In Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter, we have seen these words. When Krishna says, Kalo Asmi. When he says Kalo Asmi, it means he is that final stroke of death. Because we are dying every moment. Practically speaking, we are dying every moment. Shanay, Shanay. But that moment, when that final attack happens, and we get detached from this material body, we label it as death. So, Kalo Asmi. We don't know when that is going to come for us. So, it is more necessary for us than it was for Parikshit Maharaj that we utilize whatever time we get continuously in Shravanam, Kirtanam, or any of the other Navida Bhaktis or the 64 Angas of devotional Bhakti that we have learned till now. It is only when we have ourselves continuously and consistently engaged, we may get the mercy. And when that time comes, we may remember Krishna and be prevented from Dehantara. Because Krishna has promised, one who remembers me at the time of death, he does not have to go through this cycle of repeated birth, old age, disease and death. Antakale cha mam eva smaram muktva kalevaram. And that is what we all are striving for. That somehow or the other, we achieve that perfection. But we don't know when that will be. Whether today, right now, tomorrow, a week later, a month later, a year later, a decade later, we don't know. But we have to think that it is going to be the next moment. And we have to keep ourselves continuously engaged, throwing out all other desires, all other issues. And that is why this particular statement is all the more important from this particular chapter. One should devotedly execute, the regulative principles of devotional service and at the same time hope for Krishna's favor or for his devotees' favor. So there are three ways by which we can get the mercy, because this apparently accidental development of ecstatic feelings, it happens in three groups: simply by speaking, simply by glancing, and simply by good wishes. So that is how it gets classified into three ways of receiving the mercy. So verbal blessings, the example is wherein Krishna blessed Narada to achieve Bhava Bhakti. So Lord Krishna said to Narada, "O best of the Brahmanas, I wish that you develop an alloyed devotional service which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness." But we are not lucky like Narada, so we don't know whether we'll get it. Second would be blessings from darshan. And this is exemplified by the inhabitants of the Jangala province, who received mercy through Lord's darshan. So we know the story in Skanda Puran, that the ecstatic love towards Krishna developed only by glancing. So when this Jangala Vasi, they saw Krishna, they were so stricken with feeling that they could not withdraw their glance from him. They were fully captivated and then drowned in the mercy. And that is why one of the 64 angas is that we have to go to temple twice a day. We don't know when that moment will come in our life. And by looking at the deities, we'll actually feel that awakening of love for Krishna. And so Srila Rupa Goswami ji has mentioned that you have to go to temple twice. And third could be heartfelt, unspoken blessings. So example is Shukdev Goswami, who achieved Bhava Bhakti while still he was in the womb, because Krishna's unspoken well wishes. So here it is clearly mentioned in Shuka Samhita, wherein Narada had told Srila Vyasadeva, you have a son who is the greatest devotee of personality of Godhead. And I can observe that without any following of the regulative principles of devotional service, he is already enriched with many of the symptoms achieved by the execution of devotional service after many births. We are not showing any of such symptoms. So not sure whether we will get this heartfelt unspoken blessings like Shukdev Goswami. Or second was getting the blessings from a devotee. So we have the story of Prahlad Maharaj and Brigari, the hunter. So Prahlad Maharaj got the blessings from Narad Muni, and Brigari the hunter we already know in Skanda Puran again. So Parvat Muni has told Narada, my dear Narada, of all saintly persons, you are so great and glorious that simply by your good wishes, a low-born hunter also has become a great elevated devotee of Lord Krishna. So we have to just hope against hope that we will also get such causeless mercy from some devotee who is exalted. But there is no guarantee. And that is why the only thing which remains in our hands is going for repeated deity darshans. There's no other way for us, especially now in Kali Yuga. So Prahlad Maharaj's story is very important, which I have already covered in Srimad Bhagavatam. But since he's got that mercy, it's important how he got it. Because the mercy which he got did not happen after birth. He got it even before birth. That attraction for Krishna, Krishna prema. And that was received because of mercy of Narada Muni. Because when he was enwombed, his mother was sympathetically instructed by Narada about devotional service. And at that time, Narada was also wishing that Prahlad Maharaj should take the advantage of his instructions. And the moment Narada wished it, because he was an authorized devotee, and he was associate of personality of Godhead. That is why Prahlad Maharaj developed the characteristics of a high grade devotee. This is natural attraction. So it is caused by special grace of Krishna or great devotee of Krishna like Narada. And that is why we will find that certain children, after they are born, they like chanting immediately. Or in very small age, even before saying Ma or Pa, they are ready to say Hare. And I have seen these examples. So it becomes our responsibility that we develop and cultivate it further. But unfortunately, what happens is we are so caught up in Maya that we don't see these small things. We forget our responsibilities as parents, as grandparents, and we allow the material teachings to continue, A, B, C, D, or rhymes. While what actually captivated them initially was the Krishna mantra, the Hare word. So, see, this is all practical that we are talking about. And that is what we have to understand further. So, coming to the next part that we were talking about is understanding the characteristics of one in Bhava Bhakti. So, we have already seen that a soft heart is characterizing Bhava Bhakti. So, he is going to be symptomized by strong emotions like crying, shivering, but they can be concealed or imitated. And so Sri Rupa Goswami has mentioned 9 characters which cannot be imitated or concealed. So these are those: avyartha kalatva, utilization of time, that is constant engagement in devotional service 24 hours a day. So this is very important that you go for avyartha kalatvam. So you will find that devotees do it. Second is perseverance, shanti. Third is complete detachment. They get virakti. They are virakta. They don't know who is my daughter-in-law, who is my son-in-law, who is my son, who is my daughter, who is my mother-in-law, who is my father-in-law, who is sister-in-law. No, completely detached. For them, Krishna is the center of their activity. And they think only of Krishna. They do not get feelings of, say, insults or expectations of respect. Complete detachment. Mana shunyata, pridelessness. They don't want any kind of respect at all. Asha bandhi. They hope against hope that they will get the mercy of some devotee or Krishna. Samutkantha, intense eagerness. That yes, I have to achieve the prema. Namagane sadaruchi. They have attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. The moment they get free time, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Whether they have bead bags in their hand or not, only Namaruchi. And Asakti Sada Gunakhyane. They have addiction to glorifying Krishna's qualities. Whoever they meet, oh, Krishna is this, Krishna. Did you know Krishna did this? Did you know that Krishna's devotee has done this? So always glorifying Krishna's qualities. And Pritihi Tada Vasati Stale. They have the attraction to live in Dhama. So they ensure that their house becomes a Dhama and it develops to such a level that they get the benefits as seen. So these are few important symptoms: perseverance. So worldly difficulties and reverses, they do not disturb a Bhava Bhakta. They accept whatever is happening to them as Krishna's will, continuing undisturbed with devotional service. And Maharaj Parikshit is the best example. Because though he was going to get imminent death, he simply desires to continue engaging in the Navavidha Bhakti, Virakti. Because the senses now impulsively go to Krishna, not to sense gratification. So the detachment is automatic and effortless, even in presence of sense objects. King Bharat was completely detached in spite of the opulent king. Pridelessness, despite being superior to everyone. The Bhava Bhakti sees himself as a lowly creature. Bhagirath Maharaj was such an example. He was superior to everyone. Yet, he humbly bowed down to the untouchables and his enemies. And great hope. The prospect of receiving Lord's mercy, he feels so much of hope that despite our shortcomings, we'll attain perfection in Krishna consciousness. Rupa Goswami ji has written this beautiful prayer. How the devotee feels himself hopeless, but maintains the wishes that he hopes to achieve success by Lord's inconceivable mercy. So, ecstasy that we see in neophytes or non-devotees could be false. Because ideally, all these symptoms can be experienced only by those who have rati. Rati is the transcendental love for Krishna. So those who are not yet got to this level, they will never have such experiences. So if sense gratification is expected, liberation is expected, you will never get these symptoms. Because then that is rati abhas. Because they are not genuine, they are symbols of ecstatic. So they are of two types. One is pratibimba, which is reflection, and the other is chaya, or a shadow of ecstasy. So we'll have a break at this point and we'll continue next week from pratibimba and chaya further, because those are important topics and would like to devote some more time on that. So the plan of action for the coming week would be, we'll be completing these 19 chapters, and then second day we'll be going through important shlokas as remembrance. And then since we are completing the first Lahari, what we'll do is next week we'll have a complete revision in short in 2 days time. And then we'll continue the discussions further from the 20th chapter onwards. I have tried to answer whatever questions have been raised in the attendance sheet in the discussions itself. If there are any more questions, you may please write them and we'll try to respond to them in due course of time. Tomorrow, as you all know, is Ekadashi. So we'll have short discussion on Ekadashi Mahatmya after our chanting.